Ted Baillieu is leader of the state opposition and joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Fiona.
Your press release said that John Brumby had made Black Forest Drive more dangerous with his ill-considered narrowing of the road to 2 lanes. Now, you heard some of what Mel Kirsting had to say. Their research showed that the road would actually be safer. With these line markings changed, that's why they were doing it. So how can it be more dangerous?
Well, the government got it wrong, and they failed to consult the local community. They set upon this project some years ago, didn't consult the community and just started doing the work. The community, I think, understand the road better than anybody, and it's quite clear that reducing the road from 4 lanes to 2 lanes is not going to make it safer, it's going to make it more dangerous.
Well, Vic Road has done the research, and they say it wouldn't have made it safer.
Well, I think the consultation, to the extent that it's taken place after the event, has revealed quite the contrary. The road is subject to snow, to fog, to black ice. It has a reputation as being dangerous. Reducing it to 2 lanes is not going to help. It's going to make it less safe. That's what the community is very strongly saying. And we've had engineering input as well. We've had the local community telling us that. And the local community have collected an enormous number of signatures on a petition. There's no other example where the government has reduced a road from 4 to 2 and made it safer. And I think in this particular case, it's clear they got it wrong. We made that very clear ourselves, and now, once again, the government has sought to follow our lead.
Well, the government was, the Vic Roads, was saying that this reconfiguration would separate the traffic to reduce the potential for head-on crashes. It would bring motorists further away from the trees and culverts on the side of the road, and it would effectively make it much safer. So what does your engineering research tell you?
Well, the engineers have spoken to us, pointed out that vehicles passing each other, in other words, going opposite directions, will actually be closer together than they would be if they were just single vehicles now. And in terms of the work that's been done, the barriers have been put up. That's obviously a significant part of the cost. Half of the line marking configuration has been done, and I think it's already been demonstrated to those who use the road that that's a much riskier proposition.
As I mentioned, your press release effectively blamed the Premier for all this. Now, that's a bit melodramatic, don't you think? You make it sound like the Premier was out there driving the line marker. Well,
the government run the show, and they can't just blame everybody else when something goes wrong. We know that that's what they do. It's always somebody else's fault. They've had this project on the books for some time. They embarked on it without consultation. The local community has been upset. And
that was Vic Roads, though. That wasn't the Premier John Brumby. It was a Vic Roads project.
Well, the government run the government. It's the Labor Party. It's John Brumby running the government. This is their project. They've funded it. They're promoting it. They were seeking to get kudos for it. When it goes bad, they want to run away from it. You can't have it both ways.
Would the Liberal Party, if it wins government at the November election, change anything about what the Labor government does now? They've said they'll put it back to 4 lanes. Are you going to do anything additional on top of that?
Well, the barriers have been put in place. It's not about the barriers so much, even though there are barriers, that some of the barriers are controversial in terms of being wire rope barriers. But we have said we would restore it. There's still funds for the project. They should be used to undo the line marking configuration which has taken place. What John Brumby should be doing is apologising to locals for yet again not consulting a local community, and he should be apologising for the waste of taxpayers' money.
But in terms of what you have promised, is it just a reactionary policy without thought, given that it was simply the community that was up in arms about it?
Well, in fact, if you go back, you look at our local members. As soon as this project started, our local members were saying, "Hang on a minute, this isn't right. This isn't right. This is going to have the reverse effect." So we've been on top of this from the start. The government haven't listened. We've been prepared to make a position. It's not that we want to wait until November to get this done. We think it's now more dangerous and it's an accident waiting to happen. We think it should happen now. So we were simply saying, well, if this is not done by November, if it's not reversed by November, then we'll get on and do it. So it's not less safe than it currently is. Now, to that extent, I think the locals will be relieved if this is reversed. But the bottom line is that taxpayers will be out of pocket, and locals will once again have been reminded this government doesn't want to consult them in advance of doing things.
You're not just appealing to voters here?
No, this is a question of safety. You don't have to be attentive to drive down the road and see the problems which will ensue. And the fact that people weren't consulted has caused a great deal of grief. As I say, this is not about waiting until November to get this done. This needs to be done now before there is an accident as a result of this change. I think it's now been admitted that through some of the Vic Roads representatives themselves that they got this wrong.
Well, they might have got it wrong in terms of consultation, but in terms of, as Mel Kirsting was saying, reducing the potential for head-on crashes, bringing the motorists away from the trees and bringing them away from the side of the road, and having that middle turning lane for people to turn into their properties, and not having someone coming at speed behind someone who's attempting to turn into their properties. I mean, all that makes it safer, doesn't it?
Well, the advice that we were getting, certainly the communications we were getting from local community, was that vehicles passing, as I said before, will actually be closer to each other than they were before if they were single vehicles. And the locals regard it as unsafe. They've now had a few weeks to observe what happens, and they are adamant that this is wrong. And you only have to take a drive on the section that has been reconfigured to understand what they're saying. The barriers have gone up, so be it. The barriers will stay, but the line marking should be reconfigured. We've been prepared to make a statement about that and take a lead, and it wasn't until we did that the government changed its mind. Now, the very fact that the government have followed our lead indicates that they know this was wrong. So I don't think there's any question about it.
Or there was political pressure. Should there be a dedicated lane for cyclists?
Well, if you want to have a dedicated lane for cyclists, that's fine, do that. But it's not going to make it safer, for cyclists by reducing from 4 lanes to 2 lanes and putting vehicles closer to cyclists.
But if there are dedicated cyclist lanes, that's safer for cyclists, isn't it?
Well, not the way that it's been configured, because vehicles will be closer to the cyclists. So the very fact that the government have now acknowledged this and said that they will reverse it is a clear indication that the government got this wrong. They didn't consult, they got the project wrong, they wasted taxpayers' money. Get on with it and reverse it.
All right. Ted Baillieu, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, yeah.
Ted Baillieu is leader of